We just watched the greatest basketball tournament of all time. We watched, without question, what was the greatest basketball tournament ever. And if you guys are new to this channel, subscribe. We are obviously Mick Talks Hoops, but we're on 130 subscribers. We can get to like 150 by the end of the day. It'll be insane. For all new viewers, thank you guys. But we just watched a ridiculous tournament, culminating in the greatest 90 seconds of basketball maybe of Steph Curry's career. Considering the importance of it, we will never see anything like it again. Because I'm not sure we'll ever see it. Like, there are players that you think that we're going to see again that we probably won't. Steph Curry's one of them. I think we will never see a Steph Curry again. Because Steph Curry's like, it was 10 years ago. When Steph Curry first broke onto the scene in 2013, that was 11 years ago now. When Steph Curry first won his title, it was 9 years ago. These guys coming into the NBA were 10 years old. So everyone thought by now there will be multiple Stephen Currys coming in shooting the ball. Every kid wants to shoot the ball. No one's even come remotely close. People thought Trae Young was going to be Steph. Some people thought Luka was going to be Steph. The Kings owner thought Buddy Hield was going to be Steph. Nobody's ever been Steph, and no one's ever going to be Steph again. There is just something about him. There might be guys with better shooting percentages. There might be guys who sometimes you shoot from deep like Dame. There will never be a shooter like Steph. There will never be. And if you look at Team USA, there will never be an isolation scorer like Kevin Durant. Like, a lot of people talk about Wemby, and Wemby's different. I don't think Wembanyama has the offensive peak of a Kevin Durant, of a LeBron James. But I think, barring injury, Victor Wembanyama, by year 5, will be considered the greatest defensive player of all time. It'll be the greatest defensive player in one of those situations where people are just like there'll be like defensive player of the years and everything. He will start not winning defensive player of the years just because it's unfair to give it to him and they want to give it to somebody else. Like, it's gonna get to the stage where he's gonna have voter fatigue by about year 3, and he's already the best defender in the NBA. He was the best defender in the NBA. He was the best defender in the world when he played in France. I said it literally in his first Summer League game when he got posted by Kai Jones after the second Summer League game. Like, Wemby's a top 5 defender right now. People call me crazy. I went to see him play in France, and I just watched how scared everyone is of him on the court, and you don't notice it until you're there in person how scared they all are. And I literally said he might win Defensive Player of the Year as a rookie when I went to watch his last game when he played in Roland Garros, the last game against Monaco. But this Team USA team, I hate that they naturalized the player, but they did. It is what it is. I just hate that rule in general, and that being used by America is wild. But we saw the greatest shooter of all time have arguably his two greatest games ever. No, sorry. I'll say 2 of his 4 greatest games ever, because he had one of those ones against Boston where he was just a joke, even that series. But I think when it mattered, like, that Serbia game really mattered. Like, for the legacy of everybody involved, that Serbia game mattered. He won it for them. He only shot 13 shots. He had 24 points. LeBron James, I think Curry was robbed of MVP. I do. I think he was robbed of MVP. Because if we are going to be judging the totality of the tournament and not just what happened at the end, especially because Curry was who won it, then you give Jokic MVP. For the totality of the tournament, Jokic was the best player. But Steph, like, you just can't. You just can't. It doesn't matter that up until the semifinal, Steph Curry sucked. He was a joke how good he was. But also, you have to take into account this whole tournament, how great this whole tournament was. Puerto Rico qualifying. That Puerto Rico's qualification game, where they beat, I think it was Lithuania, and Grand Theft Alvarado hit the step back 3 to ice the game, was unbelievable. Japan had that one game against France where they blew it. Like, that 4-point play. France would have been in 3rd place, and France would have been facing, I'm pretty sure France were in the side of USA had they lost that game. I thought Spain, considering how weak this Spanish team was, I thought Spain were pretty damn good. I genuinely thought they did pretty well, because, like, look, I genuinely thought that, like, they beat a good Greece team. Like, this is the best Greece team in 20 years. Last 20 years, since 2006. They beat the best Greece team in 18 years. they lost to Canada only by 3, and they were competitive with Australia. There was the group of death, which is the greatest group of international, which is the closest group we've ever seen in international ball. Canada, Australia, Greece, and Spain. 4 really good international teams. I thought what South Sudan did for African basketball was incredible. Shout out Luol Deng, shout out Royal Ivy, shout out all of them. That is what South Sudan did, even in the pre-Olympic game when they were close with USA, for the greater good of basketball in the world, was as important as anything else that happened. Brazil? Jeez, Bruno Caboclo hooped. I still can't believe Brazil made it out of the group. That's just the problem where it's with the structure, not even in a way with the structure of the competition, that Brazil just got a really easy group with Japan in it, and Brazil make it out of the group and won out, and Spain and South Sudan don't. Either of those against, obviously it couldn't have been South Sudan, but Spain against Team USA. Spain obviously finished last. They were in the group of death. Heck, if South Sudan had faced, let's just say, who were the other third place team that made it through? I think it was Greece. If it was Greece, USA, and then South Sudan, Germany, I think that was it. It would have been so much better in the quarterfinals. That Brazil team just didn't belong. Australia nearly beaten Serbia. Up 24, one of the greatest comeback I've ever seen. Canada, who lost to France because they were just unlucky. They were just really unlucky. I thought France, Yabusele, Cordinier, and Lazor were unbelievable. And I thought Wemby on defense was great. And Jamal Murray just was horrendous. Germany, who looked nearly impenetrable until they lost to France and then faced a better Serbia team in the 3rd and 4th place playoff, and unfortunately didn't get a medal. And a French team who looked awful the whole way through. I thought Germany's weren't good in the semis. They looked awful till the final. And I think they looked bad through the first 2.5 quarters in the final. And then they were just ridiculously good. This is a French team that were not being carried by Wemby. They were being carried through large spells of this tournament by Yabusele, Cordinier, and Matthias Lazor. 3 EuroLeague guys. For Serbia, Amranovic, obviously Bogdanovic is an NBA player, but Amranovic was great. I thought Micic at times was great, at times was awful. And Jokic just showed he's the best player in the world. We got to see, in this Olympics, the best player in the world playing at his peak. We got to see, in my opinion, the greatest player of all time defeat Father Time. We got to see the greatest point guard of all time and greatest shooter of all time have 2 of the best games of his career. We got to see the greatest isolation player, one-on-one scorer ever, Kevin Durant. Probably the last time we see him playing real meaningful basketball because the Phoenix Suns are just in a horrible situation. We got to see the next up in that maybe GOAT conversation in Wembanyama absolutely ball out. We got to see EuroLeague guys showing that, yeah, we can compete. We got to see Yabusele show that the gap between him and a 14-point per game NBA player is non-existent. Yeah, the stars in the NBA are better than anyone in these other leagues. But the gap between the better EuroLeague guys and guys that are good NBA role players is non-existent. It is completely non-existent. We got to see, again, if you're Canadian, your first win in 20-something years in the Olympics. If you're a fan of, for all Africans, seeing how great South Sudan was. And we saw some of the best games. We saw very little bad basketball. And it just showed that even if you are American, it doesn't matter who you bring out anymore. There's no, in a best of 7 series, they never lose. But Americans are the only people that ever do anything by series. That on any given day, you got to tune in because one of these teams can just light you up. And players you probably have never heard of are still ballers. The level of basketball in the world is scary good. And it was shown by this competition. And this is a competition that did not have Lithuania, who beat USA in the last World Cup. It did not have Luka Doncic's Slovenia. It did not have Croatia, who are a good team. Trying to think who else weren't in it that were good teams. That's probably it, to be honest. Either way, was the perfect basketball tournament. So that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.